Yes, folks, hello, welcome to MoDXtra Games and Collectibles. It's time for another action figure review here on the channel. And as you can see on the screen in front of you right now, today's installment is going to be taking a closer look at the G.I. Joe Classified Series Retro Flint. So stick around, I'm going to give you all the ins and outs, ups and downs that you need to know about the figure. So if you've been thinking about picking one up for yourself, you'll know whether he's worth your hard-earned cash or not. I'm going to start by taking a look at the packaging for the mint in box folks, or for those interested in the general peg presents, then move on to the figure, talk about the aesthetic and the visual experience, talk about the articulation and posability, have a little rundown of the accessories and added value, and then finish up by comparing him to a couple of other retro G.I. Joe Classified Series figures. And with all that said and done, you should have a good, thorough overview to help you make your mind up as to whether this guy is the figure for you or not. So let's get into it, and let's jump back in time to visit past Chris, who's taken a look at the packaging on the day it arrived on my doorstep. Here we go. Okay, then folks, well, here is Flint, retro cardback Flint in packaging, and you can see it's the standard retro cardback packaging for G.I. Joe Classified that we've come to know and love. So we've got the artwork, a Hector Greedo-inspired artwork. I mean, what's there to say about that? There's not already been said. You know what I mean? Just abysmal. Absolutely abysmal. Just looks awful. However, putting that to one side and pretending that's not there, we've obviously got the figure here in the blister on card with the figure and all the goodies on display. Then on the back, we've got the file card with information in various different languages. We've got the three figures from the wave all cross-promoting one another, legal bollocks and malarkey across the bottom. And, well, that's it. That's what you get with a retro cardback figure. There's not a lot to shout about, really, to be fair. So I'm going to go away and get this bad boy cracked open, get good and hands-on, have some man-child playtime, do some displays, take some photos, yeah, the usual routine. And while I'm doing that, I'll jot down some review thoughts. So stick around, because Future Chris is going to come back with you now and share those review thoughts in 3, 2, 1. Okay, then, folks, well, here is Retro Flint as he came out of the packaging. That's your full head-to-toe look to have an eyeball at right out the gate. And undoubtedly, this is the retro version of Flint. Full-on, vintage-inspired, looks just like the OG figure, looks just like he was in the old Action Force comics that I used to read. And that, of course, is the main driving force for my desire for this figure. Flint, for us guys over here in the UK who read the Action Force comic books, he was like the main dude. He was our Duke, you know? He was the head of the International European Action Force. So, very excited to have him in hand, and this looks just like that comic book interpretation of the character, looks just like the vintage figure, the OG vintage figure, right down to things like, even the double belt with the two buckles on it and the pockets here on the front of the thighs, and the shotgun shells on the webbing and everything, just completely head to toe, color scheme, the works. This really is retro in the purest sense of the word, which makes the line all the more confusing as to what's mainline, what's retro, what's reinterpretation, what's not. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that today. Getting in a bit closer then, let's conduct a finer inspection of the detail. And one area that I think will make or break this figure for you, the kind of the bit that will have the most mileage variance for different fans of the line, will be the head sculpt here. Now, in terms of engineering, it's a good solid head sculpt. It's got that nice square jaw, that all-American boy, good facial features, well-applied paint applications on the eyes, the eyebrows. It's got his flick of black hair, very, very classic Flint kind of look. To see it, you would know who it is straight out the gate. It's got a little bit of an animated vibe to it, a little bit more cartoony perhaps than some of the other head sculpts, bringing more in line with the likes of the Retro Duke, for example. But that's all fine and dandy. That's great. What will affect some people's enjoyment, some individuals' enjoyment of this figure, is that slightly smirky look. He's got this little kind of raised smirk at the side of the mouth, a slightly raised eyebrow there, giving him a little bit of a kind of whimsical, kind of smirky kind of thing going on there, which I quite like as, a non-vanilla face that's bringing a bit of flavour and a bit of personality into the figure you're buying. But I must admit, some of the photos I've been trying to take with him, the face just it just impacts on the whole tone of the picture that you're trying to take, and that will obviously influence some people's enjoyment of the figure or not. Moving down into the shirt area, and you've got his webbing here. You can see paint applications applied to the little badge, the little insignia on the chest here. This is, in fact, entirely reuse of the Duke shirt, the Retro Duke shirt. It's the same insignia there. and then little paint applications on the shotgun shells. Two, in fact, one on either side. You've got the black on one side and the kind of brass on the other. And then, of course, painted belt buckles, which is, I'm always a big fan of a painted belt buckle with the sculpted in detail there, the little the eagle shape and the little, I don't know what kind of shape that is, but it's all sculpted detail. And you can see further sculpted details there in around the pouches and the little bullet strap sections and stuff. That's all good and dandy. Got the gloves here with the little sculpted on watch on the left wrist, which says 12 midnight. He's on night maneuvers. Got the green camo pants there with nice again paint applied camo pattern within there and the texture detail. Pretty sure these are reuse. I'd be surprised if we haven't seen these legs before. But yeah, definitely got the texture detail in there to give it some depth, and then down into the boots, you got that kind of suitably black leather look with the green leather trimmings down the side there, again to bring him nicely in line with that kind of vintage look of the figure. The belt and the holster look a little bit plasticky, although there is some sculpting in there to give the holster a bit more of a leathery vibe. You can see the sort of more plasticky nature of it around the back there, but it's fine. It all blends nice enough. All that kind of texture detail as well in the shirt and things, like, you know, the folds around the edge of the sleeves here and the little creases and stuff in the main body of the shirt. We've seen this before with Duke, of course. It does suffer a little bit from shiny shirt syndrome, which is something that you sometimes get with the classifieds there. The black is a bit kind of shinier across the middle, and this torso section even more so, a little bit more matte on the shoulders. But that's YouTube reviewer nitpicking finer details. At a glance on the shelf, you know, it all blends. It's fine. And that, honestly, it's about it, really, isn't it? I mean, it's a Flint. It's a vintage look Flint. There's not a great deal else to say. He's certainly not the most dynamic or colourful or wacky character, but that's not what you want from your Flint, is it? You know, he's one to go in the toy soldier, he says in speech marks, toy soldier kind of space on your G.I. Joe classified shelf there. And he fulfills that well. He's got a relatively unique look with the black shirt over the camo pants to make him stand out a little bit. But if you're looking for accuracy against your visual memory of the comic book version of the character or the vintage figure, then this is pretty much doing it. Like I said before, it's just about whether the face puts you off. And that's all I've got to say, really. He's just a good, solid, concrete slab of G.I. Joe classified. Oof, there you go, and that's what some of us want, So I'm going to give him a thumbs up because I think it, as a retro carded Flint, it succeeds in the retro vibe, the vintage vibe, very, very well. And I'm quite happy with it aesthetically in terms of visual experience. Obviously, with the top on it and everything, that'll add a little bit more to the visual experience, the aesthetic. We'll look at that in the accessory section. But yeah, overall, solid, rock solid. Okay, so that's the aesthetic and visual experience. Let's take a quick look at his articulation and posability, shall we? And as always, folks, as I move into the articulation section, it's fairly standard G.I. Joe Classified Series articulation. So if you've got no need or desire to sit through this section, I've put timestamps in chapters so that you can jump forward to have a look at the accessories and added value section of this review. However, if this is the first G.I. Joe Classified retro G.I. Joe cardback figure review you've ever watched, or you want to know if there's any quirks, stick around and I'll walk you through it. I'm going to get started up top here with the head. There's the ball at the base of the net, ball in the base of the skull, standard for G.I. Joe Classified. Your forward gets you to about there, your back's pretty good up to there. A full 360 axis swivel, and then the kind of tilt and swivel that you can do on the end of the ball. Down into the shoulders, got the butterfly joint, the hinge and the peg, so you can shuffle back and forth. You can go all the way around, full 360. You can T-shape him out. There. Got the swivel in here on the bicep and tricep. Pinless double elbow that'll get you up to there. Then the pegged in hands that can go all the way around in the wrist. And these two trigger fingers, trigger hands that come on him, have up and down hinges on them out the box. Then a little bit different, we've got the barbell joint across the chest and then the ball joint in the waist. So doesn't have the hinge shape in there. Your crunch forward's all right about there. Your crunch back's about there. But obviously you got that extra kind of swivel motion in there and then good swivel motion in the ball joint on the waist. Standard G.I. Joe Classified Series drop-down ball joints in the hip stroke groin, so you can get him forward like that. Russian ballet out to there. You could get further if the holster wasn't attached to this belt and getting in the way. Got swivel there at the top of the thigh. Pinless double knee that'll get you all to there. Swivel at the top of the boot, and then the standard hinge and rocker for the feet stroke ankles. So Flint articulates good, thumbs up there. standard G.I. Joe Classified series articulation, good range of postability, and you're able to bring your imagination to life within certain limits. But I've found most of the poses I've been trying to get him into have been okay. My only criticism, articulation wise, is a kind of knock on domino aesthetic effect because of the way these belt and the holster around the thigh here, and these two pieces of webbing across the chest there, and because they're joined, you sometimes end up with this kind of poking up and stuff, and you have to sort of finesse it and manipulate it down so it doesn't look ridiculous and things. But we've seen that a bazillion times with G.I. Joe Classified. You just got to have the patience to fiddle with it really now. So overall, good solid articulation, plenty to do with the figure. And that's it. That's all. This is going to be one of them reviews because, again, it's just a rock solid toy soldier. All right, well, let's take a look at his accessories and added value now, shall we? And getting us started, we have the beret here, Flint signature beret. Definitely a part of his visual identity in the black colour there with the red insignia on the front. This is reused, of course. We've seen the berets used numerous times throughout the line. It's a good fit, not loose at all. Good look, well sculpted lines, the contour features with the beret down the side there is well sculpted. Yeah, rock solid, and obviously a key part of Flint's image, Then we have Flint's shotgun, first item on his weapon loadout there. I think we've seen this before, maybe not actually. I don't remember now. We've definitely seen some shotguns. I'm not sure this one specifically. Anyway, by the by, this is the one that comes with retro Flint. A single piece of molded plastic, got the green sections on there, bit of trimming, also to sort of blend it into his uniform. Got nice sculpted details in there, like the grip on the loading bar. I don't know what you call that. Weapons, folks. I know one of you will jump out and fill me in on that. But yeah, that's nice. Good shotgun, and obviously the classic weapon that came with the vintage figure, and the classic weapon that you used to carry in the Action Force comics that I used to read. So very pleased with that. And then Flint's got a little, I don't know what's that, like a 9mm pistol thing. Again, single piece of molded plastic, not quite as detailed or as elaborate as the shotgun or other pistols we've seen, but certainly serves a purpose. And this, of course, as you've seen when I was demoing the figure, has the holster on the thigh that you can pop it in, just like that. Easy peasy lemony squeezy. Then we have Flint's backpack here. Again, very reminiscent of the one that came with the vintage figure. Lots of lovely sculpted details in there. The grenades, the canteen. What are these? Are these like dynamite? Strips of dynamite or flares? I bet no, they look more flary. And they of course got a bit of paint application on them there, adding a splash of colour, which I'm always a fan of, a bit of a splash of colour. This canteen looks like it's a separate piece that's been glued on, which is interesting. Well, not so interesting, but it kind of gives it a lot more depth. And a little bit more kind of something going on in terms of the dimensions of it all, which I think is quite nice. And sort of this curved shape there, so it fits nicely on his back. Standard pegging in as well. But yeah, that's a lovely little backpack. That nice, really nicely sculpted. Once again, shout out to the G.I. Joe Classified series backpack sculptor. You do excellent work, whoever you may be. And yeah, it just pops in. Nice and easy on the peg on the back there. And the added advantage of the backpack as well is it kind of helps you out a little bit with the riding straps too. Flint then has this lovely selection of hand swaps, 4 in total, making 6 overall in the set. We've got the 2 closed fists there, so you can have him yo-joing or getting into fist fights and stuff. Got the pointed finger, G.I. Joe needs you. And then we've got this one, this kind of open palm hand, which is nice. I think this is like one of the very few times, or perhaps even the first time, we've had a sort of gun holding, open palm hand, which is really great to see. It makes for some kind of great positioning with the shotgun there. But you can also use it to have him, kind of holding all sorts of other stuff if you were so inclined. So yeah, great to have a wide selection of hand swaps there to really open up your possibilities in terms of the poses and stuff you might like to try and do. And then finally, as is standard with the retro kind of subline in G.I. Joe Classified, Flint comes with a G.I. Joe foot stand. We've seen this several times before. Got the 2 foot pegs in there, got the G.I. Joe kind of symbol imprint in there. Yeah, fine, nice. Big fan of the foot stands. Less so with Flint. He's a nice independent stander, but definitely a big fan of them with the wibbly wobbly female figures in the retro line. But yeah, always useful to have the foot stands, and a great addition. So the accessory selection is fine. it's not super exciting overall, really, but that's just, for guys like me who like weird and wonderful shit with my G.I. Joe figures. As far as your toy soldier goes, he's got a good loadout, different hands, got his backpack, he's kitted up the way he should be kitted up, and that's all fine and dandy, so I'm definitely going to give it a thumbs up. Always happy to have loads of hand swaps with a figure. I think that really helps open up your options and your possibilities when it comes to the types of dios and displays and photographs that you might want to take, so I'm always happy for that. And it just comes with what he needs. Not everything has to be, mechanical wings or cinder block mallets or, rice field hats with blades on the edge of them, I suppose. As much as I would like it all to be that wacky. So, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So there you go. There's the accessory rundown, folks, and the the added value. Let's now take a look at Flint next to a couple of other figures, shall we? Okay, folks, well, here is Retro Flint next to Retro Duke, just to give you a look at the two retro command dudes together. Here's the Retro Flint with Shipwreck and Footloose, who were, as UK readers of the Action Force comic will know, who were regular members of Flint's Action Force squad. Here he is with Lady J. This is the mainline Lady J. And again, I've had him posed up with her because they were a double team in the Action Force comics. They featured together in loads of the original stories from Action Force. And here he is with Monkey Wrench. He was just, kind of hanging around as a desk figure because he's another recent addition to the collection, who I've also recently reviewed, by the way, folks. If you want to tell some friends, we'll give a watch yourself. And here he is next to the mainline classified Flint, so you can get a little bit of a kind of comparison there. Obviously, a lot of difference, really. When you actually put them next to each other side by side like this, a great deal of difference between the two, the least of which is, the embellishments like the big tactical vest and whatnot. Now, I know some folks might be interested to know the head swap is a no-go. The mainline Flint has got the much bigger ball in the base of the skull than the retro one. The retro one's got the newer, smaller ball. So you would have to get a bit crafty, a bit creative to make that work there. Here's Flint for you folks going around on the turntable so you can get a good 360 view of the figure to finish up. And while you're having a look at that, I'll share some final thoughts. As you have probably gathered from this review, I'm very happy to have this Retro Flint in my collection because I have a strong nostalgic connection to the character. I must have said the phrase, the Action Force comic books in the UK, 20 times through the course of this review, because he was my guy. He was our guy here in the UK. So very pleased to have him, very pleased to have that classic look figure. Very, allowed me to play around. I've taken some photos. They'll probably hit Instagram in the next day or two of him replicating some of my favourite covers and little scenes from inside the comic books. If that's not quality man-child playtime, then I don't know what is. Just, reliving and replicating your favourite scenes from your favourite comics with your toys, So I've had a lot of fun. I've had a lot of enjoyment with him. As I said right early on, when we were looking at the head, your mileage might vary if you're not so much into this smirky thing going on. Or you might say, well, the mainline Flint's pretty good, which it is. I'm not one for repeat characters, but I had to go for this one. I say I'm not one for repeat characters. I'm breaking my rule a lot lately. I might have to stop pointing that out because it's obviously a fallacy, isn't it? But, the mainline Flint's good. You might say, well, I'm happy with the mainline Flint and that'll do me. And I could see that point of view too, to be honest. So you'd have to have a good think about where he fits in your collection and how you're planning on using him. But as far as a good, solid 6-inch toy soldier goes, he's decent. He's rock solid. And I've had a lot of fun with him. So, that's what I got for you, folks. Take that. Or don't use that to influence your purchase decision or not. So there we go. Okay, well, thanks very much for hanging out and watching my review of the Retro Flint. If you found this useful, hit the subscribe, hit the like button, all that good stuff. I hope it did help you make a purchase decision. If it did, then come back around for another review sometime soon. I'd be very, very happy to have you here. And thanks to all those who've stuck with me through these couple of years now as well. I've not mentioned you guys for a little while, and I should stop and say a little heads up to the regulars around these parts. You guys are awesome, and keep commenting. I love chatting with you guys in the comment section. All right, well, take it easy. Have yourselves a great day. Have yourselves a great week. And swing back around again sometime soon. All right, take it easy, folks. Oh, hang on. Don't go yet. Let's get him facing the front first. Come on, Flint. Come on, son. There you go. And there we go. Ta-ra now.